So you've decided to take the IELTS exam, but now you're stuck deciding between the general version or the academic version. Which should you choose? Well, in this video, I'm going to break down the differences between these two versions of the exam to help you decide which is the best bet for you based on your needs, whether it's studying, working, or even immigrating. Let's go. Generally speaking, the IELTS General Training is the simpler exam that's used to demonstrate practical, everyday English proficiency. It's commonly the preferred choice for those who need to demonstrate their English language proficiency as part of an immigration requirement to a Western country like Canada, the United Kingdom, or Australia. And on the flip side, the IELTS Academic is the version of the IELTS exam that's almost always required for studying at a university level in a Western country. But with that said, there are numerous secondary and in some cases, post-secondary institutions that accept the general version of the exam as proof of your English language proficiency. Nonetheless, both versions of the exam test your English skills in 4 areas, which are reading, listening, speaking, and writing. And at the time of this video, both versions of the exam can be taken in 2 modes, which are paper mode and with a computer. But for some people, depending on your location, you might only have access to one of these modes, which could be either a paper version or a computer version. And when it comes to scoring, as you might expect, they both are scored on the same scale of 0 to 9 points per section, where the overall IELTS score is your average score on all 4 sections. So with that out of the way, let's discuss how the 4 sections in both of these exams compare and contrast. Starting with the listening section, the content in this section is the same on both versions. You will listen to 4 recordings which constitute 2 conversations and 2 monologues or lectures, and then answer a total of 40 questions. As for timing, you get 30 minutes to listen and note down answers on a scratch paper, plus 10 minutes to transfer your answers to an answer sheet if you're taking the exam in paper mode. But if you're taking the exam on a computer, you only get 30 minutes in this section. As for scoring, each correct answer gets you 1 mark, and the raw score out of 40 sub-points is converted to the IELTS 9-band scale. Now, the reading section is where you observe the most difference between both of these versions. In the academic version, you get 3 long texts taken from books, journals, and in some cases, newspapers that are appropriate for people who are about to enter a university environment. In the general version, the texts are drawn from everyday materials like ads, handbooks, advertisements, and even notices. Nonetheless, on both versions, you complete a total of 40 questions in 60 minutes. As for the writing section, again, there's a difference here between the academic and the general formats, where in the academic, you complete 2 tasks, where task 1 is analyzing a graph, a table, or a diagram, and task 2 is writing an essay in an academic style. And in the general version, task 1 is about writing a letter, and task 2 is about writing an essay in an informal style. And just like the academic version, the total time allocated to draft your written responses in this section is exactly 60 minutes. Regardless of the version of the exam you're taking, you will need to use appropriate language, organize your ideas, and show a range of vocabulary and grammar. Now let's talk about the speaking section. In this section, similar to the listen section, there is no difference between both of these versions. You will have an interactive face-to-face conversation with a certified examiner, which is broken down into 3 parts ranging from personal topics to more abstract issues. And as for timing in the speaking section, the total time spent in this section will be between 11 to 14 minutes. So as you can tell by now, you don't need to take both exams to discover that the academic version is the more difficult version of the exam, as a much higher bar is required to do well on the reading and writing portions of the academic version than the general version. So if you were given a choice to demonstrate your English language proficiency using any versions of the IELTS exam, then you should simply choose the general version.